Somewhere in West Oakland tonight, a woman is going to fall asleep inside a dumpster, and she is one of the lucky ones, because that dumpster has been cut open, insulated, and fitted with a real bed, a window, and a door that locks from the inside. Across America, more than 250 families and individuals now eat, sleep, and survive inside homes built from dumpsters, skips, and scrap, and inside the villages those homes inspired. But this movement was not started by a politician or a charity. It started with an artist who looked over a fence and saw something nobody else could see. Oakland, California, around 2013. Gregory Clone was an artist and builder who spent years working with his hands, welding, framing, experimenting with anything he could drag into his studio.
I said, hey, I want to make my own home. I want to source material from the street. Could I build a home in one day for no money?
At the time, he was converting a shipping container into a home, the kind of project that gets photographed for design magazines. And every day while he worked, he would glance over the fence at the property next door, where an ordinary green dumpster sat with a pitched metal lid. One day, it clicked. That dumpster, with its sloped roof, looked more like a house than the container he was building. It looked like a little metal tent, and he could not stop seeing it that way.
And I saw a dumpster, and I thought, hey, that's a perfect shaped house. Looks like a little metal tent. Maybe I can convert that into a viable home.
So Clone got himself a dumpster and spent months turning it into a genuine home. He fitted a working kitchen inside, a toilet, storage, a sleeping area.
I have a kitchen complete with a toaster oven, a sink, and a single burner, a 10,000 BTU burner.
On the outside, he added a shower and a small propane grill.
On the outside, you can bolt on a barbecue. All that's powered by a 5-gallon propane tank. There is a toilet.
The roof popped up to let in light and air, then lowered at night so the whole thing looked like just another rusted bin in an alley. He even built a rooftop deck sturdy enough for 2 people to stand on. From the street, you would walk right past it. Inside, a man was cooking dinner. A designer living in a dumpster makes a fun headline. But Clone lived in a city where homeless encampments stretch along the freeways, where tents and tarps line entire blocks. And he walked past people sleeping on pallets every single day. So he started asking himself a different question. If he could turn one dumpster into a home for himself, what could he build for the people sleeping outside his studio? That question became the Homeless Homes Project. Clone began collecting what Oakland threw away, and West Oakland throws away a lot. Illegal dumping is so common there that furniture, appliances, and construction debris pile up on the sidewalks faster than city crews can haul them off. So Clone started driving those streets at night with a truck, picking through what the city considered a nuisance and treating it like a lumberyard.
So here you have a typical dump. I really just ripped a page out of the homeless people.
Broken pallets became framing. Old fence boards became siding. Truck bed liners became waterproof roofs. A washing machine door became a round porthole window. A refrigerator shelf became a storage rack. Word spread and volunteers started showing up at his studio on weekends, and the workshops turned into a kind of assembly line for the strangest housing stock in California. Each finished home was small enough to sit on a sidewalk. Mounted on wheels so it could be rolled to safety during a sweep, with a solid roof, a locking door, and a dry place to sleep. And when a home was done, Clone did not sell it. He wheeled it into the encampments of West Oakland and handed someone the key. One of the first recipients was a woman who had been sleeping rough near the train tracks. When Clone rolled her new home up to her spot, she did not celebrate. She walked around it slowly, ran her hand along the roofline, and checked the lock. Twice. People who do outreach work will tell you exactly why. On the street, sleep is a job you never clock out of. Some part of you stays on watch through every night, for months, sometimes years, and that part of you does not stand down just because the danger finally has. A locked door is not a luxury for someone coming off the street. A locked door is the first medicine. And the people receiving these homes rarely match the stereotype. Outreach workers in Oakland meet former nursing assistants, truck drivers, grandmothers who were raising grandchildren right up until the rent outran a fixed income. For most of them, the fall took one bad month. A hospital bill arrived, or a layoff notice, or a landlord's letter, and a friend's couch turned into the back seat of a car, and the back seat turned into a sidewalk. Ask them how long they thought it would last, and almost all of them will give you the same answer. A few weeks, they thought. Just until things turned around. Now here's the part that should make every city official squirm. A publicly funded housing unit in California can run past $500,000 and take years of permits before anyone sleeps in it. Clune was handing someone a warm, dry, lockable home in about a week for a few $100s in hinges and paint. And doing nothing is not free either, even though budgets pretend it is. A person living on the street cycles through emergency rooms, ambulance rides, police calls, and jail nights. And researchers who follow chronically homeless individuals have found the public routinely spends tens of thousands of dollars per person per year just managing their crisis, not solving it, managing it. Which means the most expensive option on the table is often the one that looks like nobody is paying for anything. Nobody argues that a scrapwood house on wheels solves homelessness. But winter does not wait for permits, and neither can the people trying to sleep through it. Still, a hand-built house on a sidewalk is easy to dismiss as a stunt. For the idea to spread, somebody respectable had to prove that a human being could actually live this way, long-term on purpose. That somebody turned out to be a college dean in a bow tie. In Austin, Texas, Dr. Jeff Wilson was a professor of environmental studies at Houston-Tillotson University. In 2014, he sold nearly everything he owned and moved into a 33-square-foot used dumpster parked on campus. His students nicknamed him Professor Dumpster, and he wore it proudly for a full year. That year was not gentle. In the Texas summer, the interior of the steel box climbed well past 100 degrees, hot enough that Wilson sometimes retreated to sleep on top of the lid instead of under it. He lived through winter nights and rainstorms drumming on the metal inches above his face, and he and his students treated every bit of it as a living laboratory. They upgraded the box in stages, insulation first, then a small air conditioner, a fold-down bed, a weather station, sensors tracking temperature, humidity, and energy use, measuring exactly how little space and power a person actually needs to live decently. His argument was simple. American homes keep getting bigger while more Americans can afford no home at all. And if a university dean could live comfortably in 33 square feet, then a converted steel box was not a punishment. It was a starting point. A dean proved the box was livable. Two men in New York proved something better, that the people most qualified to design housing for the homeless are the ones who have been homeless themselves. Shane Duffy and Phil Sullivan had both slept on the street and both knew exactly what a person out there actually needs because they had spent nights making do without it. Their converted dumpster cost about $1,500 to build. Solar panels on the roof, LED lighting inside, and a charging station, a detail that no architect would have prioritized but any homeless person would. Because in the modern world, a dead phone can cost you a job interview, a shelter bed, a call to your daughter. Nobody handed them a grant. They just remembered what it was like to be cold. By the time a young London architect named Harrison Marshall moved into a converted street skip to protest rents that swallowed 3/4 of his professional salary, the point had been made 3 times over, on 2 continents. If people with full-time careers are being priced out of 4 walls, the people at the bottom of the ladder never stood a chance. But single boxes scattered around a city can only do so much. The real transformation happens when the boxes come together, when micro-homes gather on one piece of land with shared kitchens, bathrooms, and neighbors who look out for each other. It stops being shelter and starts being a village. And the man who built the biggest one in America did not start with houses at all. He started with sandwiches. In the late 1990s, an Austin real estate developer named Alan Graham started driving a food truck into the parts of the city most people drive around. His ministry, called Mobile Loaves and Fishes, served meals out of that truck to people living on the streets, night after night, year after year. And somewhere in those thousands of conversations over sandwiches, Graham noticed something that would eventually reshape his whole understanding of the problem. Almost nobody he met had ended up outside because of money alone. Behind nearly every story was a deeper collapse, a family that fractured, a support system that vanished, every safety net of human relationships gone. Graham came away convinced that housing by itself would never fix homelessness, because the deepest wound was not the lost apartment, it was the lost community. So instead of building apartments, he set out to build a neighborhood. That neighborhood became Community First Village on the east side of Austin. And to be clear, the homes there are not dumpsters. Most are tiny houses with front porches and refurbished RVs. But the village runs on the exact idea clones saw over that fence, that the raw material for housing people is cheaper and closer than anyone admits, and what is missing is somebody willing to see it differently. The village is that idea, fully grown. More than 50 acres, now home to hundreds of people who used to sleep under bridges, in cars, and in drainage tunnels, with more land already being developed to take in hundreds more. Gardens, a chapel, an outdoor movie theater, and a memorial garden. Because some residents arrive with so many hard years behind them that the village becomes the dignified last chapter the street never would have given them. And this is where the question in this video's title gets answered, because daily life there is built around 3 simple things: how people eat, how people sleep, and how people survive. Most of the micro-homes are too small for a full kitchen, so residents cook in shared outdoor kitchens, covered pavilions with stoves, sinks, and long tables where neighbors work side by side. For a lot of residents, those kitchens matter as much as the homes. On the street, you eat alone, fast, guarding your plate. In the village, dinner becomes a table with other people around it again. Sleeping happens behind a locked door, in a real bed, with a porch light outside and bathhouses and laundry a short walk away. And survival means more than staying warm. Residents earn income inside the village, tending the gardens, firing pieces in the blacksmith shop and art studio, staffing the community market where visitors buy what residents make, detailing cars at the car care station. There is mail delivery, and pay attention to that detail because it explains more than it seems to. A mailing address is the quiet key that unlocks a job application, a benefits claim, an ID card. Homelessness erases a person's paperwork long before it erases anything else, and a village address starts printing that person back into existence. Watch a single morning unfold there, and the word dumpster stops meaning anything. Around 7, porch lights click off one by one as the sun comes up over the rows of tiny homes. A woman in her 60s waters tomato plants she started from seed, the first thing she has owned and kept alive in a decade. A man walks his dog past the mailboxes on the way to his shift at the community garage. In the outdoor kitchen, Somebody has coffee going, and 3 or 4 neighbors drift in with their own mugs, the way neighbors have done in small towns forever. One resident, a man in his 70s who spent years in a drainage tunnel, now spends his evenings on his porch waving at everyone who passes because for the first time in decades, people wave back. And when someone does not show up for coffee 2 mornings in a row, a neighbor knocks on their door to check. On the street, disappearing goes unnoticed. In the village, disappearing gets noticed by lunchtime. None of it looks remarkable. That is exactly the point. After years of surviving in public, in doorways and bus shelters where every hour is witnessed by strangers, the most healing thing residents describe is not the roof. It is the ordinariness, the right to have a boring Tuesday. Staff at villages like this will tell you the adjustment takes longer than anyone expects. Some residents sleep in their clothes for months. Some keep a packed bag by the door long after they have settled in. The people who run these places measure success in years, not weeks, because trust that took a decade to lose does not come back in a season. And no group carries that weight more visibly than veterans. In the most recent federal count, just over 32,000 veterans were sleeping somewhere in America that was not a bed. People who survived deployments, now bedding down behind grocery stores and under highway ramps. A handful of nonprofits have started building the same style of compact steel and modular housing specifically for them, small secure units with locking doors, on the simple argument that a person who came home from a war zone should not have to keep sleeping like they are still in one. Which brings me to something I want you to have. I know from the comments that many of you are not watching this out of curiosity. Some of you have a brother, a son, a neighbor who is already out there. Some of you are one missed paycheck from this yourself. So I put together a written guide called The Veteran's Blueprint. It started as a resource for veterans and their families, but everything in it applies to anyone close to the edge. Where to turn first, what to secure before anything else, and the steps that actually work when you are trying to pull someone back. The link is in the description. If that is you or someone you love, get it after this video. Now, the critics. Because there are serious ones, and they deserve a fair hearing. When Clowen's homes started appearing in Oakland, some housing advocates argued that handing someone a decorated trash bin, however warm and clever, risks telling society that a trash bin is what poor people deserve. That the real problem is rent outrunning wages, and every charming microhome is a distraction from fixing it. Some designers went further and called the projects performance art wearing the costume of a solution. It is a serious charge, and the honest answer is that both things can be true at once. A dumpster home can be a genuine rescue for the person inside it and a troubling signal about the country around it. The builders themselves do not entirely disagree. Clone never claimed a dumpster home ends homelessness. He claimed it ends one person's freezing night. Honest people on both sides know those are two different problems, and only one of them fits inside a steel box. The numbers back the critics up. A village holds a few hundred people. A batch of sidewalk homes shelters a few dozen. Meanwhile, the national count of people experiencing homelessness has passed 700,000, the highest figure ever recorded. For every person who gets a key, dozens more are still on a waiting list, still under an overpass, still deciding which corner feels safest tonight. And nobody knows how long these steel homes will actually last, because none has been standing long enough to find out. One nonprofit director admitted she hopes the units hold up for 20 years. The residents are the test. Then there are the neighbors. Nearly every city that has tried this hits the same wall. People support solving homelessness in general, then get much less comfortable when the solution is a cluster of steel boxes going up near their kids' school. Town halls fill with worries about crime and property values. and some of those questions deserve real answers. Who maintains these sites in 10 years? What happens when the funding dries up? The organizers who succeed tend to be the ones who invite the skeptics inside the fence, because the fastest cure for fear of a village is dinner at one of its tables. And then there is the detail that says more about this whole story than any statistic. In Oakland, city crews at one point hauled away homes like clones during encampment sweeps. On paper, a house built from trash is still trash, so the city threw it away like trash, with everything its owner had inside. The same steel that means home to the person behind the door still means garbage to the system around them. Which one it becomes depends entirely on who is doing the looking. An artist looked over a fence and saw a house. A city crew looked at a house and saw debris. Everything in this story lives inside that gap. So I will leave the question with you, because your answers in the comments genuinely shape what this channel covers next. If a converted dumpster with a locked door is the difference between someone surviving winter and not surviving it, is building one an act of compassion or an admission that we gave up on something bigger? Tell me what you think below. I will see you in the next one.